rivalry week, it just doesn't get any better than that. So let's just kind of jump into some of those scores. Starts with Thanksgiving, of course, the Egg Bowl. Ole Miss beats Mississippi State 17-7. Didn't really feel like it was ever in doubt. Did you have a different feel on it than that, Ashton?
No, not really. I mean, Ole Miss was a better football team.
Yeah.
Mississippi State's a little bit toothless. They also just hired a new head coach since the end of this game. More on that probably here in a bit. So,
Yeah.
yeah, Ole Miss, 10 wins for them.
Mm-hmm.
Lane Kiffin getting the job done. Good for him. Hey,
Yes.
that is a good year for Ole Miss. They played Georgia, Alabama, and LSU, and they still only have 2 losses. There's not many teams out there that would go 10-2 with that schedule. I think Ole Miss is a good football team.
Yeah, excellent job by them this year. All right, moving on down, a bunch of scores to read. Miami beats Boston College 45-20. Iowa beat Nebraska 13-10. This was a wild game at the end. I don't know if it's worth talking about, but yeah, Ashton, this kept Nebraska from getting bowl eligible the first year in the Matt Rule. Iowa gets it with the walk-off kick at the end, coming after a disastrous interception by Chubba Purdy. Any more on it from your side?
Well, okay, so Iowa actually had the ball in a tie football game, and then they did they threw an interception, but that was really so that they could get their defense back on the field to then pick a ball off and get them in better field position to kick a field goal. So it was a big brain play, really, from the Ferences. I felt, hey, 10-2 for them. A lot of negativity coming their way, and I mean, they might get blasted this week in the conference championship. They're 10-2 though. They're going to have a really good bowl game. Yeah. Hey, credit to them. They won. It was nothing pretty about this at all. As someone who had a few dollars, few of my own shekels sprinkled on Iowa covering, they did, but man, I didn't feel good about it.
13-10 the final score there. And in the same sport, we had Oklahoma and TCU, which was 69-45. Just a points bonanza. Oklahoma's offense looked pretty unstoppable. Yeah. We'll talk more about Jeff Levy leaving there later, but good showing by them. Tulane finishes an 11-1 regular season with a win over UTSA 29-16. Good win for them there. Missouri absolutely crushed Arkansas 48-14 to go 10-2. Really impressive season by Mizzou. Yeah. Arkansas, on the other hand, it ends at 4-8, and big year coming up for them. Big off season coming up for them. They're holding on to the coach, but we'll see. We'll see what happens for them. Texas crushes Texas Tech 57-7. I was really impressed by the way they took care of business. Not that I guess I didn't view Texas Tech as having a legit shot of winning that game, but I figured they'd have a legit shot of scaring them at least, and Texas just was having none of it.
I thought it could have been a okay. Well, we've mentioned it. It's the classic look ahead game, right, for Texas. I mean, Texas is going to Texas, right? Like that's kind of a verb almost, and they haven't all year. And Texas Tech's a good football team. I mean, good is a relative term. They're a bowl team, right? Like they have 6 wins. They're not bad. And that was dominant. I mean, a 50-point win against a rival. Absolutely, you take that. They were not looking ahead to the Big 12 championship game. They focused on Texas Tech and just blew them out like they should. They were the better football team.
Penn State squashes Michigan State 42-0. And then the most impressive showing, I would say, of the Friday slate, Oregon beats Oregon State 31-7. Just a complete domination in a game that we really thought was a great game. And I still, like, in retrospect, I don't regret saying that at all. Jonathan Smith did an excellent job with Oregon State this year.
Sure.
And it's possible, I guess, he was looking ahead to the next thing, taking the Michigan State job later. But yeah, I'm just mostly impressed by Oregon coming out of this game.
Yeah, absolutely. How could you not be? I mean, Oregon State's a good football team that gives a lot of people problems. I understand the point about Jonathan Smith maybe having one foot out the door. I mean, those talks had probably already started. He kind of even hinted to it a little bit. Like he said something like, if my agent's not fielding offers, then he's not doing his job. Like, I mean, and that's true. Maybe that's not the honesty that everyone really wants to hear, but that's kind of the truth of the matter of what goes on behind the scenes. So yeah, maybe he was a little 1 foot out the door. It doesn't matter though. Like this is a really big win for Oregon. a win that they needed to have too. Like they didn't have a spot in the Pac-12 championship game just locked up. If they lose this game, there's a scenario where Arizona actually would have gotten in. So yeah, Oregon did what they needed to do. The big one coming up this Friday though, man. That's a big one around the corner for them.
Absolutely. Okay, getting into Saturday, Purdue wins the Old Oak and Bucket against Indiana, 35-31, late comeback for them. Notre Dame beats Stanford. Sorry, I have those scores at the top because those are my favorited teams. So even though Notre Dame played later in the evening, we'll just get out of the way. Notre Dame beat Stanford 56-23. Not a whole lot to talk about here. Stanford is trash. Just wanted to point out one thing. Notre Dame's most likely bowl game is the Real Quest Bowl, and their most likely opponent is LSU, which is coached by Brian Kelly, of course.
That's fun, though. That's
just
fun.
Something to point out. Yeah.
Hey, that's entertainment. You could get, hopefully Jaden Daniels would play in that game like Malik Neighbors doesn't opt out. I'm just saying, if we could somehow wish that into existence, that's ratings. Like that's what we need. We need to see that.
Yeah. That might outdraw some New Year's Six bowl games, honestly.
It should. That's elite television. It's yes, like the czar of college football, whoever it is, the bowl game, whoever the guru is, we need that. I need that one badly.
Yep. Just keep that in mind when the selection committee makes their choices this coming Sunday. All right, let's move on. Duke beats Pitt 30-19. Kentucky upsets Louisville 38-31.
Yep.
Eliminates the little tiny sliver of a chance that Louisville had to make the playoff, but they still get to go to the ACC championship game. And Kentucky gets to feel a little bit better about their season, finishing 7-5 with obviously the win there in the rivalry game. What are your thoughts about this game, Ashton?
Louisville, they got to 10 wins. They were 10-1, mainly on the back of a schedule that was not very good.
Right.
However, they did what they needed to do to have 10 wins in that schedule. Like both of those things are true. Louisville they impressed us more than what we thought. And they also had a weak schedule. Those are both true. Kentucky, however, was the better football team on Saturday. Yeah. So Kentucky's a team that's been blown out by team Georgia blew out Kentucky. So did Alabama, right? But they do have Kentucky's. If it's part of a much longer conversation about SEC bias and do you really want to get into how into the weeds do you really want to go? But and Mark Stoops also owns Louisville. That is also true. Mark Stoops he's been dominant, right, against the Cardinal. The job that he did there with all the distractions going on for Kentucky later on that night, literally that night, I think is incredible. Mm-hmm. I think Kentucky did a little bit of what we saw South Carolina do the end of last season when they went. South Carolina wasn't as good as Clemson at the end of last season, but they went and beat them anyway, right? Clemson still had a little bit of a playoff hope. This was kind of the same deal. It's two similarly constructed teams, I think, that one just happens to play a much weaker schedule than the other and gets ranked way higher. When there's not much difference between Kentucky and Louisville. There's really not. Kentucky had to play Alabama and Georgia this year, and sometimes that's not just that loss. Sometimes that even affects you the week after you play Alabama and Georgia because you're still banged up. So I view them as about the same. Kentucky and Louisville. It was a close game, but Kentucky was better and won the game on the road. Good for them.
Right. All right, the game. We get to the biggest game of the day. Michigan beats Ohio State 30-24. Kind of took an early lead, and then Ohio State came back and tied it at 17. Michigan, I have a lot of thoughts, I guess, about the way, to me, it felt kind of like a 50-50 game, but Michigan won the turnover battle. And there you go. They won by 6. Is that oversimplifying it? Which it is. Of course it is. But what are your thoughts about this game, Ashton?
Okay, so Ohio State has been called soft. I have called Ohio State soft for 2 to 3 years now, probably 3 years. We'll call it 3 years. And I've been right. I've been right so often. I will say that Ohio State is not soft this year. They were a physical football team that went on the road to Michigan and had a chance to win that football game. Michigan was a better football team than Ohio State. It had nothing to do with one team not wanting it, one team being soft. Ohio State they were physical up front. I was impressed with them. So was Michigan. These were two really good football teams. Someone does have to lose, and I'm not going to wimp out with someone has to lose. Because I kind of hate that argument. These are two of the four best football teams in the country right now. I feel that way. I think that, yeah, I mean, Ohio State is out now, and it was a playoff game, and Ohio State lost, and they're out, and they should be. All that said, I was impressed with how they played because they didn't have a fantastic quarterback. Like Kyle McCord was not fantastic. And Ohio State hung in there. So I'll lob it back to you kind of on that one. I was impressed with Ohio State.
I was too. Not super impressed by Kyle McCord. He had his moments, and I don't think he's bad. He's not a bad quarterback. That one interception in the first half, to me, that felt like right there. Like Michigan can't do it. And that to me was ultimately the difference in the game. Michigan caught that interception. Ohio State dropped an interception also in the first half. And there you go. Like, that's the game. If that's switched, it probably goes the other way. Yeah, but I agree with you completely. That felt like two of the powerhouse teams in the sport this year going at it. The game was at Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like, you can say all the cliches. Somebody had to win and somebody had to lose. But yeah, right. Honestly, that's just what it was. Like, I have been, I guess, pleasantly surprised by how few Ohio State fans I'm seeing call for Ryan Day's job. Like, I think they realize, there's a few, Maurice Clarett was out there tweeting, right before the game.
I saw that.
Yeah,
I saw it.
We got to support Ryan Day. He's doing a great job. And then after the game, Ryan Day needs to go. Can't lose to Michigan 3 years in a row.
You can't, though. Hang on. No. You can't lose to Michigan 3 times in a row. Okay, Ryan Day will go down. His legacy will be that he let Michigan off the mat, because he did. Michigan was they are better now because of that. Ryan Day's at Ohio State and Urban Meyer's not there anymore. Like he is responsible for that a little bit. And I know everyone's all like, oh, they give Ohio State all the love. And like, I understand that Ohio State's a good football team. Michigan is your arch rival. Like, you were dominating Michigan until you got there. I don't understand how he can. He's going to keep his job. There's not nearly enough outrage for him to lose his job. So he's going to keep his job through all of this. And I'm saying that's wrong. He does need to go.
So did Ohio State get worse, or did Michigan just figure something out and get a whole lot better the last 3 years?
That's partly your fault. Like, Ohio State is not as good. They were soft. I called them soft the last 3 years because they were like they got pushed around by Michigan. And these two things can't operate together. I don't think Ohio State and Michigan can both stay elite at the top for long extended periods of time. I think there's going to be a change a little bit in power. I think it's kind of this. It's similar to what happened with Alabama and Georgia, right? Like, Alabama was there. They let Kirby get one, then suddenly Kirby gets two. Like, Kirby might get a few more. I think it's similar. There is a thing like momentum, and if I was an Ohio State fan, I would want Ryan Day gone.
So how could they upgrade that coaching position?
Because I think. Okay. I've heard the argument, and people are like, well, Saban's not walking through the door, Kirby's not coming through the door. Like, who else are we going to get? We don't want anyone else. Go to the NFL. Go get someone. Like, you're Ohio State. You are not. Yeah, everyone's an option for you. You can go pay whatever. I don't see how it's acceptable. Whatever. I understand that I'm wrong here. Like, everyone disagrees with me. I'm the only one that thinks that he should still be fired. I think Maurice Clarett was really onto something there. Like, he had it right. He since deleted the tweet. I don't know if you knew that. He's actually, after he said, he needs to be gone, and then he deletes the tweet. I don't know. I don't see how you can do it. I think Ohio State recruiting is going to start to suffer. I think. Yeah, I'm interested to see how it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I am wrong. But if I'm Jim Harbaugh, Yeah, I want to keep seeing Ryan Day on the other side there because I know I can beat him. I couldn't beat Urban Meyer before. I own Ryan Day.
If you're an NFL coach, why would you want to go to the college game where you have to recruit year round? You have to recruit your own guys 24/7, and you can go 11-1 and people will be disappointed with you. Why would you do that?
I mean, Jim Harbaugh did. Like, they're going to build him a statue out there.
Yeah, that was a situation where it felt like he had kind of worn out his welcome in San Francisco. Things were not going super well anymore.
Okay, two names. I have two names here real quick. You're not going to like the one. Marcus Freeman, that's okay, whatever. He's Ohio State guy. I think Vrabel would do a great job at Ohio State.
Sure,
NFL head coach.
He's not leaving the Titans to go coach Ohio State.
Why not? It's a pay bump. He'll get paid more.
Sure.
To go home. To go home. That's where he's from.
He will also have a 3 times harder job than he does with the Titans. Like, I'm telling you, coaching an NFL team, it does not get better than that because you make comparable pay, maybe a little bit less than some of the top college guys, unless your name is Belichick.
Right.
But you do not have to recruit. You have a general manager who worries about your roster. All you have to do is hire assistant coaches and then coach on game day. You don't even have to be good at coaching fundamentals because they're NFL players. Like, it is so much harder to coach a college program than it is to coach an NFL team.
I do think that with us getting into the NIL space, it's getting easier. Like, I think in that, I understand the recruiting never stops, but it does come down to a transaction a little bit more. Like, what's your number? And I have this much, and like either yes or no, like either I can pay you or I can't pay you that much. I think it's, especially at a place like Ohio State, Alabama, the big schools, there's enough structure in place to where the head coach he doesn't have to be gone all the time, and not if he doesn't want to. So I do think it's getting better. I think that point, while valid, is a little overblown that college coaches have no time off. Like, the point, I hear it, and it's a valid point. Like, they have less time off, but I do think that's going to come back. That whole balance thing, the work-life balancing of college coaches, is going to swing back the other way a little bit.
Yeah, maybe. Well, let's jump into Michigan side real quick. Michigan is now first again in the national championship odds on FanDuel. They're plus 185. Georgia's plus 200. Are you buying or selling on Michigan being the favorite for the national title?
Are you buying or selling?
I'd be selling. I don't think plus 185 is way too steep for me. There's no way, or I should say, like, there's no way. Yeah, it's not good enough value to ever bet that on Michigan. I don't think this year. Like, no.
I was pretty impressed with McCarthy. 16
of 20 really good throws.
16 of 20 for 148. He didn't have a tremendous amount of yards, but I thought he was very accurate, especially on key downs. Like, the 4th down throw to Loveland, there was like a 4th and 1, like a little play action play that they threw the little out to Loveland. That's a play that's easy to miss, and the guy gets up tight and skips it at his shoes. Happens a ton. He put it on him. I was impressed with that. The touchdown throw, that was, was it a touchdown? Was it an interception? We'll always argue. That was a dot though. Like, he threw it right at the linebacker's ear. Like, that was placed perfectly. He had a number of those throws those are NFL throws.
That was the best throw I've ever seen him make. That was very impressive. Real quick, just off the top of your head, you don't have to think these through. Like, what is your gut feel? Who would you favor on a neutral field, Michigan or Georgia?
Georgia, yeah.
Michigan or Oregon?
I would lean Michigan.
Okay.
Lean Michigan, yeah.
Michigan or Texas? See, it's tough.
I'd say Texas. Probably Texas.
Michigan or Alabama?
Bama. Yeah, Michigan does not want any part of Bama. I don't think that matches up. I don't think they match up well at all.
Yeah. So I think I agree mostly with you. Yeah.
Okay, but that's not the point. Part of that is that you're taking into account the fact that Michigan hasn't won a playoff game.
Sure.
That's factoring in here a little bit. Like, they can be the number 1 seed all they want to be. And if they beat Iowa, they probably will, either one or two. They still have to go and win, a playoff game, which we have not seen them do.
Well, one of the issues is there's no TCU making the playoff field this year. And like maybe you say Florida State is that, or maybe if Washington upsets Oregon again.
They lost to TCU as well. So yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, we should probably move on to some other games, although it is a very fun discussion, and I'm sure we'll talk more about it later. All right. UCF beats Houston 27-13 to make a bowl game. LSU beats Texas A&M 42-30 in a game that looked for a while like they might lose. Texas A&M came out to fight. First half, LSU only scored 14. This was close for a while, and then Jaden Daniels got the Heisman campaign rolling again in the second half. Let's see. Syracuse beat Wake 35-31, which is a little awkward because they're now bowl eligible and they just fired Dino Babers, which I kind of feel like making a bowl game at Syracuse is about all you can ask for. But Utah beats Colorado 23-17. Colorado finishes 4-8 after starting 4-2, and they've been losing some big commitments recruiting wise. Just something to keep an eye on for them going forward. James Madison finishes an 11-1 season with a dominant performance against Coastal Carolina, 56-14. Maryland beat Rutgers 42-24. Not a lot to talk about there, but both teams are making a bowl game, so that's good for them. Tennessee beat Vanderbilt 48-24. Sad for us. We were kind of Vanderbilt guys going into the season. They finished 2-10.
Yep.
Virginia Tech crushes Virginia 55-17. They're going bowling in Brent Price's second season, so he's doing some good work there. Kind of under the radar, but good for him. Northwestern beat Illinois 45-43 to go 7-5, and to keep Illinois from being bowl eligible, they finished 5-7. Has anyone done a better coaching job than David Braun this year?
We had them completely left for dead by week 2. You know what I'm saying? Me and you were both actively betting against Northwestern and winning, because they were a complete barn fire the first couple of weeks. What a job. Yeah. But not just the coaching staff, like the whole program, the players didn't quit. I mean, that's really impressive. 7-5. They're going to go bowling. They deserve to. Wow. That is underrated, the job that they did just holding that thing together.
I would like to know how often a Pat Fitzgerald Northwestern team scored 45 points in a Big Ten game.
Yeah.
That's impressive. All right. The Iron Bowl. Spectacular game. Alabama squeaks by against Auburn 27-24. What a weird game, Ashton. It felt like for most of it that Alabama was kind of in control, but not really. And then Auburn found a way. They take a lead, and they have Alabama in 4th and goal from the 31-yard line. And they rushed to and spied a defender for some reason. And Jalen Milroe makes the throw of his life, and Alabama converts and wins the game. Ashton, go.
On that last play, a lot's been made about the play call. And I agree with you. As I was watching the game live, I think I even mentioned it, like rush 5. Bring 5, make them throw hot, tackle the hot route. Yep. This isn't that hard. If they make 2 guys miss and score a touchdown, we'll tip our cap, but we're going to rush 5. What they did there, and it was kind of their strategy all night. They would rush 3, drop 8. It happened all night for Auburn. And you want to say like that's a terrible play call? Like, I hear you. Jalen Milroe is not making that throw again ever in his life. Yeah. That was a one-off for him. He was standing in the middle of the pocket, not rolling out, not close. Like, he had to throw across the field to the corner and drop it in a bucket in the back corner of the end zone, probably 45 yards away by the time you factor in his drop back and the 10 yards in the end zone, which he did. Like, he's never hitting that throw again ever. So yeah, like I'll tip my cap to him for that one. I think it's unfortunate for Auburn. I mean, like, Hugh Freeze did an exceptional job in this game.
Yes.
I was really impressed with how, by the way, not just this game, how they played against Georgia too. Mm-hmm. Like, this was not just a one-off where they were seriously competitive with a potential playoff team. Like, this has happened multiple times now. They turned the ball over 3 times in this game. Auburn did. Alabama did not turn the ball over once, and Auburn should have won this game. They ran all over Alabama. I was really impressed.
245 rushing yards without a good quarterback to threaten the defense. Peyton Thorne completed 5 out of 16 passes in this game, and Auburn still should have won the game. Sorry to interrupt, but I'm just completing your thought, kind of like, what a job by Auburn, their run game especially. I was super impressed.
They led for large chunks of this game, especially pretty much the whole fourth quarter until the very end there. Most of the third quarter as well. So yeah, it was really neat to see just the atmosphere for most of this game. And if I may, we'll just take a little bit of time and go back to it. But in the first quarter, it was a CBS crew, the SEC on CBS crew. There was a little montage, right, in one of those commercial breaks, and it was Home Depot actually, who sponsors like the whole thing, played it, and I'll be honest, it was a bit of a tearjerker for me. I got a little emotional because it was as you're sitting there watching, it was just all the memories through the years. It's my childhood, pretty much. It was the Tim Tebow stuff, and they played the Johnny Manziel highlights and the great, all the great Joe Burrow throws, and then we got a little bit at the end. We got Stetson Bennett running around making plays. Like, there's so much that Tua, in the second 26, like the whole thing, it was all sitting there, and it was just kind of, they played the biggest hits, from the last 20 years, and it's not going to be the same. The music. That was the last Iron Bowl on CBS. It's not the same. I think the Big Ten's going to try to keep the music, and good for them. It's not the same. Like that is my childhood. It's what I grew up on with. It's what that music signified, that something big is happening now. Like we have to watch now because this is the game of the week, and and to see it go, I know it's, adapt or die. I don't really have a chance. Everything's changing. So we have to keep moving here, but I just want to throw it out there. What a really impressive job by the CBS crew for all these years, calling all these Iron Bowls, and they get to end on just another fantastic game and a great call at the end.
It was a little rough to hear Gary Danielson suggest strongly that Bama should kick the field goal with under a minute left, down by 4. That was a little bit rough, but everything else was great. So
it's Gary. Come on, it's Gary.
It's Uncle Gary. That's what he does. He's Mr. Conservative. It's okay. All right, moving on. Wisconsin beats Minnesota 28-14, keeping Minnesota from going bowling. There was a lot of that Saturday, by the way. A lot of 5 and 7 teams that could not get over the hump. Yeah,
they lost. Yeah.
Oklahoma State escapes in double overtime against BYU to go to the Big 12 title game. They were down by 2 scores in this game for a good chunk of it. And they found a way. I guess that's the Oklahoma State story of 2023, is they found a way. Arizona, holy cow.
They're good, man. They're good.
They finished 9-3 with a dominant win against Arizona State, 59-23. Jed Fish, we sang David Braun's praises at Northwestern a little bit ago. You can do the same with Jed Fish at Arizona. He has really turned that program around. What can you say, really? 9-3 at Arizona in his second season. Super impressive.
Where do you think he's going? You think he gets a job, or you think he stays there?
As an Indiana fan, I would love to see him there, but that's probably not going to happen.
Good luck. I heard he's a Florida grad, and in case Napier is gone at the end of next year, maybe something to keep an eye on.
That would make a lot of sense. Liberty finishes 12-0 with a win against UTEP, 42-28. Jamie Chadwell apparently turned down Mississippi State.
Heard that. Yeah.
So, the final Apple Cup as conference rivals, Washington escapes Washington State 24-21. Late field goal. Yeah, this was just a fun game. Washington, to me, they feel like this year's TCU in that they keep winning 1-score games somehow.
Yeah.
I think they're maybe a little more talented than TCU was last year, but man, the profile is similar as far as just the way they're winning. And on one hand, you say that means they're probably not as good as their record states. On the other hand, props to them for just continually finding ways to win. I thought Cam Ward was pretty solid in this game for Washington State. Washington's defense actually playing pretty well in the second half when they really needed to. Yeah, Washington wins yet another game. They finished the regular season 12-0.
With it all to play for, too. I think Washington is disrespected a little bit. I know they're playing a ton of close games. Like they did beat Oregon. Like, let's not forget about that. We laud all this praise on Oregon, just pile it on Oregon. Washington beat them. They played a game this year. So yeah, they have to beat them one more time, and they're going to the playoff, and will deserve to be in if they do that.
Sure. All right, Florida State beats Florida 24-15. They also finished 12-0. It was ugly to start with. Tate Rodemaker, the backup quarterback who came in for Jordan Travis, rough start for him. The offense was not figuring anything out for a while. They finally seemed to settle down a little bit in the second half. It still wasn't pretty, but their defense played well in the second half. And Florida, some untimely penalties, just kind of shooting themselves in the foot in the fourth quarter. It feels a little bit too normal for Florida under Billy Napier. I don't know. But yeah, they are yet another team that finished 5-7 and will not go bowling.
I watched a ton of this game. Had a lot of playoff implications, right? Like, yeah, I mean, I watched as much of this game as I did Georgia Tech, which was going on at the same time. I think, okay, this one's a little tricky, but Florida State, if they win out, they're going to the playoff, right? Mm-hmm. However, Florida State is not very good. Like, that's also true. So Florida was the better football team throughout the majority of this game. They ran the ball really well. I was impressed with Florida. Like, I was really impressed with the defense. I thought they were aggressive. You're right. They make some boneheaded plays though. Like they have some. Okay, Florida had just gotten a safety late in the second quarter, in the late first half, right? They get the ball punted back to them right after you get the safety. They're up 12-0. 2-score lead with the ball, and after you get it on a safety, like you return that thing to like the 45-yard line. Like, they were almost at midfield. They had a chance to go up 3 scores going into halftime. They don't. Florida State, and they called like a double reverse pass or something, like just an absurd call for Florida. It was I think it ended up getting called for grounding because they had to throw it away. Drive killer, right? Florida State gets the ball, goes down, scores, boom. It's 12-7 at halftime. Florida State has life. And they continued to fight until, I mean, but Florida State they were going to win from that point forward. So yeah, like in that, Florida should have won this game. Keep going back to that. There are some awful refs this whole weekend. This game signified it. There was a roughing the passer call in this game that was one of the worst calls that I've ever seen. It was a terrible call. In the Auburn-Alabama game, there was a face mask where the guy nearly got his head ripped off, and we're like, the ref did not throw a flag. In the Georgia Tech game, there was a roughing the passer call that was like he just kind of set him down. Like, I was like, okay, like, I guess we can't tackle anymore. There was so many missed calls this whole weekend. It was frustrating to watch, and this game had quite a few. I think Norvell was pretty frustrated at times on the sideline.
Yeah, Florida, they don't feel like a 5-7 team to me. I don't know what their huge weaknesses are. I also don't know what they're especially great at. They have a couple of really good running backs.
Right.
They just, man, this next season is so important for them. Obviously, I mean, Billy Napier, it feels like he's got one more chance, and
he has one more year. Yeah,
he's got one more year, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm kind of at a loss for words with them.
Florida missed 2 field goals. They attempted 4. Florida attempted 4 field goals, missed 2. Like, if say they hit all 4, say they convert 1 or 2 of those into touchdowns, they win this game early. Like, this game's over in the third quarter. Yep. So yeah, they had chances here. Florida absolutely punched with Florida State this whole game. And yeah, they couldn't convert.
That reminds me of something we did not touch on earlier. Ryan Day, one thing I will side with you on against Ryan Day is some rough 4th down decision making. touchdowns win games, man. And
yeah,
that's really important. West Virginia beats Baylor 34-31. They finish 8-4. Great job by them this year. Baylor finishes 3-9. They will retain Dave Aranda, kind of similar to Billy Napier. I think he's got one more year to figure things out. Kansas beats Cincinnati 49-16. Georgia beats Georgia Tech 31-23. They were in control the whole game, kind of until sort of the end, and then Georgia Tech made it close. Any thoughts other than maybe Georgia looking ahead to the SEC championship game?
Sure. Yeah, they're looking ahead. Also, like the referees took like 3 touchdowns off the board for just bogus penalties. Clearly the refs did not agree with me and you on the Georgia covering the 24 points.
Yeah.
We were the right side though, Ben. Like I would bet it. I would bet it again. It was very unfortunate. What happened? Georgia was about just to run away with that thing, and the referees were like, "No, not so fast. We are not letting you win this game by that much."
Yeah. Clemson beats South Carolina 16-7, denying South Carolina bowl game. 1 defensive touchdown for Clemson and several field goals, and that was it. Any takeaways?
I this one here was as close to the NFL games that I watched yesterday as possible. Yeah. This was not a fun game to watch. No. There was 1 offensive touchdown scored, and it was not scored by the winning team. It was only scored by South Carolina. So, yeah, it was a struggle bus. Congrats to Clemson. I guess you don't let them beat you twice in a row.
I was weirdly, they scored 7 points, but I was kind of impressed by Spencer Rattler. They cannot block at all for him.
No,
0. No. I'm curious to see if he can do anything at all in the NFL with a competent offensive line. We'll see.
Does he have a COVID year? Any chance he comes back? Couldn't he come back for one more? I think he has one more year left.
I guess I'm not sure about that. You might be right.
With the COVID year. He's probably not going to. Like, he's probably going to go, but yeah, I agree. That guy has impressed me a lot just with his toughness. That guy got blitzed every single game. He just got pounded. And he just hung in there and didn't quit on his team. So he deserved better. Spencer Rattler, say you put him on a solid team that is just in need of a quarterback. Like put him on Iowa, someone like that. Like there's a big difference there. Like Spencer Rattler makes NFL throws. He has a great arm.
North Carolina loses to NC State 39-20. Just an absolute boat racing. Didn't get much of this myself, but was never close from the jump, really. So impressive job by NC State. Kind of a weak start to the season, and they finished 9-3. So good job by them. Yeah. Dave Dorn just continues to do a good job at a program that's not all that high on the level of tiers in college football, and yet continues to be an 8 or 9 win team. So good for them. A snowy Farmageddon leads to Iowa State upsetting Kansas State 42-35. Impressive win by Iowa State. They finished 7-5. We didn't think a whole lot of them this year, and pretty good win by them. Cal upsets UCLA 33-7. They're bowl eligible. Good job by Justin Wilcox. Not a very good team, honestly, in my opinion, at Cal, and they found a way to win 6 games. So good for them. Any games I missed, Ashton, that you were wanting to talk about? One thing, just one quick note before we move on. Off the top of your head, do you know which conference has the most bowl eligible teams this year?
Okay, is it the Sun Belt?
It is the Sun Belt with 12 teams that are bowl eligible. Impressive.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I thought of that. I knew it was a wild number. I didn't know it was 12. And I thought it was. And that's crazy though. Like the just the depth that you have to have. Sun Belts, they're pretty frisky. Like there's some teams in there that are solid and would compete in a lot of the Power 5 conferences right now.
Sure.